11-10-4. Sorry, 211, disregard your backup is arriving on another call. 11-10-4. Sorry, 211, disregard your backup is arriving on another call.
2091, cancel your call to 879 will handle.
What is real? How do you define real? Real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
What's this guy's name? It's something Hawk. And it may sound stereotypical, but dude looks like he's done some time. And sounds like he's done some time.
What is real? How do you define real? Real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Who named you coming in? By who power? Is what?
What is real? How do you define real? Real is simply electrical signals interpreted.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Okay, that's incredible.
One at a time, y'all. We got the incredible Hawk in the building. What's up, man?
You gonna smell my cologne? Yes, in the Yaqui on some bar number 9, cause I do not play.
That's the same clone I wear.
Tabernacle sanctuary, cause we keep God first in everything we do.
Hey,
Dom the Monko. Dom the Monko.
Yo. Stop the music, stop the music, stop the music, stop the music. If you're new here, this is what we do here. I am the Incredible Hawkin. This is Hawk School for the Gifted and the Elect, and we're broadcasting live from the emphatically immaculate Republic of Atlantis. Oh, yeah.
Dom the Monko.
Niggas in trouble.
Dom the Monko.
What is real? How do you define real?
Perfect.
Real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
One at a time, y'all. We got the incredible Hawk in the building. What's up, man?
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Okay, that's incredible.
How we do it?
Who named you coming in? By who power? Is what?
All right, let's calm down a little bit. All right, but that's too. Stop the music. That's way too calm. All right, that's way too calm. And actually, I said I was going to do this a little more laid back because it's a very serious topic here. All right, and actually, tonight's topic is Barbarous, Mexico. All right. If I recall the naming correctly, Barbarous, Mexico, and we're going to be talking about the Yucatán, right? The Yucatán Unveiled. All right, because we already know that we hear a lot about this whole Yaqui thing, all right? And I came across this book, Barbarous, Mexico, which we're going to get into. And it is very, very interesting. Okay, we have already done the research to know that the Brotherhood, if you will, have had control over Central America, the Yucatán, for some time. That's because the Panama Canal is there. All right, so it's very important. When the Knights of the Golden Circle sought to overthrow our established empire, the Panama Circle, or should I say the Panama Canal, that area, the Gulf of Mexico area, is very important to trade routes. Okay, and once you start doing the research into a lot of these wars and whatnot, the trade routes are very important. And we're going to actually get into a little of that tonight. All right, this Barbarous Mexico is going to blow your mind. All right, I was reading the book and I thought I was just going to read it, but I've been doing a lot of reading lately. So I'll just, we'll do it laid back, see how it goes. I like to turn up. You know what I'm talking about? Straight up. But we're going to, keep it real smooth and groovy for the obvious reasons, folks. All right. If you haven't been tuning into the Quran reading that we're taking the 30-day challenge of reading the entire Quran for the month of Ramadan. And it is very interesting. And for those who think that they know anything about Islam and they don't know the Quran well,
Who named you coming in? By who power? Is what? It's the Spirit of God. See, the Spirit of God is omnipotent, and it'll work on your ass, and I can be far, far away, because it's considered conscience,
When I first saw you, I just wanted to touch you, hold you, and about you, and the incredible excitement about you,
Y'all, we got the incredible Hawk in the building. What's up, man?
In between me and them other dudes and dick, you gonna diss me, and I'm gonna come see you, Jack. You gonna diss them other dudes, they gonna play hip rapper with you. So if you want it, man, come on with it. If you want it with me, come on.
Hold on. Come to my house. Don't you ever bring scared business to me. I run shit. I kill for nothing. And I make lots of money and deal the business. Don't bring that shit to me. Again. You hear me?
You are cut down to the ground. You who weakened the nation.
If a nigga lie to you, a nigga will kill you. Same nigga lie to you will kill you, bro. A nigga that'll lie to you will kill you, bro. Alright? Stop the music. Stop the music. All right? Stop the music, please. Please. Stop the music. Now, before we get into this book, you're going to need to know about the henequen industry in the Yucatan, all right? Because this is something I actually had to look up. If you know about the henequen industry, then hats off to you, okay? I had to look it up. Now, the henequen, the etymology, of course, the English term agave was known in the Mayan language as ki. Henequen agave, all right, was referred to as henequen blanco by the Spaniards and sake by the Mayan, while sisal, agave sicilana, was henequen verde to the Spaniards and maybe Yaqui to the Maya. All right, so this is tied into the Mayan, all right? And let's just take a look at a few pictures that I found, all right? And these are some of these. This is actually from the Filipinos, all right? And I just wanted to bring it in so you can see the Asian admixture here, okay? You'll see, let's see. Very interesting. Now, this is actually from the book, all right? Al-Kitab, and it says the type of an ganchado or plantation slave. All right. Ouch.
Who named you coming in? By who power? Is what?
Stop the music, all right? Stop the music, because somebody's grandmother is a copper-colored American. Before we get into the book, I just want to give some people some time to get in here, all right? Because you're wondering what happened to us, all right? Because you can clearly see that these people would be referred to as Negro or colored by Walter Plecker.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Okay, that's incredible.
Bro, if a nigga lie to you, a nigga will kill you. Same nigga lie to you will kill you, bro. A nigga that'll lie to you will kill you.
All right, time, y'all. We got the incredible Hawk in the building. What's up, man?
Oh, shit.
Omnipotent, and it works on you. It'll work on your ass, and I can be far, far away because it's considered conscious, you know.
Stop the music. For God's sake, stop the music. Sheesh. What's wrong? No, I actually have some pictures here. Did I send those pictures? Hold on, let me take a look here. Where are let me send these pictures to myself and give you time to share the live stream, if you will. All right, I have a few of these henequen pictures. I could have swore I sent them already, so that you can see. And that's actually how I got into the finding these images, because the people were wearing actual henequen clothing. All right, let me get this in here. Boom. All right, now forgive me. All right, please talk amongst yourselves.
at a time, y'all. We got the incredible Hawk in the building. What's up, man?
Oh, shit.
So this is the henequen plant, all right? And from this plant, all right, they create these strands and they can make all types of rope, all right? And all types of, what is this called? Clothing and nets and hats and all sorts of shit, all right? And this is some of the items made from this agave plant, which is actually quite amazing. Won't he do it? All right. All right. And this is found in the Yucatan. All right. And it's important that we know what this is because this is where these slaves are found. Okay. Now let's get into the book. Now that we have, well, I'll read a little here. We don't need that. Let me just turn the music down to the bare minimum, all right? It says the henequen industry in Yucatan is an agribusiness. Agribusiness is the industry enterprises in the field of study of value chains in agriculture and in the bioeconomy, in which case it is also called biobusiness or bioenterprise. All right, so it's an agribusiness of a plant native to the Yucatan, Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula, all right, large peninsula in southeast Mexico and adjacent portions of Belize and Guatemala. All right, and I don't know if you've ever met anybody from Belize, but they're definitely Negroes. All right. Says after extraction from the plant, henequen is processed as a textile in various forms to obtain a range of products for domestic, commercial, agriculture, and industrial use. All right, and as a binder twine for crops such as hay until the mid-20th century. All right, that would be the 1900s if you're roaming the halls. It was a major industrial activity, the mooring of vessels, depending on it. All right, so this is the pirate rope, folks. Now let's get into this book a bit. Let me get rid of some of these photos. So that we can get the photos that go with the book. Here's a henequen slave. All right, now here's a slave mother and child also. All right, at the henequen plant. All right. And it's going to be very, very interesting, all right, what's happened to these people, because what I have realized, all right, based not only upon my own research, all right, what I already know. But as I was reading this book, I'm realizing that Barbarous, all right, because we see the barbarous tribes of the southeast, we see that map, all right, and everybody's trying to figure out what that's about, all right. These barbarous tribes are slave-holding tribes, all right. That's what they mean by barbarous, and I didn't find that out, folks, until I read this book, and that's why I say reading is fundamental, all right. And we'll just start. We'll start here, all right. And this book is Barbarous, Mexico, all right. John Kenneth Turner, 1910, all right. University of Toronto, all right. I have it downloaded, all right. I do have the PDF, all right. We're not cherry picking, all right. We're just doing the live research, folks, all right. And I know a lot of these guys hate it, all right. A lot of these guys don't want you reading books because they never read a book in their life, folks. All right? Barbarous, Mexico. All right? And we're going to begin reading now that we have a few people in here. And again, I'm going to reiterate, and you will now know that barbarous means slaveholder, right? And actually, I was going to just read the book, like I said, just on some just straight reading audiobook shit, you know what I'm saying? But I haven't did any teaching, all right, for the past 10 days as I've been refining myself so that I may become righteous.
Dom the Mongo. Dom the Mongo.
Let's start here. This is page 10, all right? Stop the music. Just stop the music, okay? Because the lambdas are out, and they want the information, all right? And the music's too much for them. It's too much for them, folks. All right? Red cooking. We're in the library with it. Let me see if I can see who's in here before my phone dies. All right. Shout out to Equator 7, True Facts, Slim Morningstar, Sunshine, Amaru Khan Wild, Truth Master Dre, Tribe, Tazco, CEO at 2 a.m., Salute, Mary Gal, Tribe. Oh, yeah, we going to get into it, all right? Because I see we have a few people in here who aren't into the whole experiments in Yucatan, all right? Do I have that video? Do we have the video? Because we had more to go with this. All right. Do we want to run that video? All right, because we know everybody wants to give credit to this guy. All right. Let's get your main man with the plan on the screen. All right. The big head scientist. All right. Are we buying it, folks? I don't think we are. All right. I don't think we're buying it. And what I've realized is because of these guys' connection to these brotherhoods, all right, that they've woven together quite a tale, all right? And it is true that they were grafting the people in the Yucatan. And we're going to get into it, all right, exactly how they were going about it. Like I said, this book is going to be very telling. You don't want to miss it. If you're new here, this is what we do here. I am the Incredible Hawkin. This is Hawk School for the Gifted and the Elect, and we're broadcasting live from the emphatically immaculate Republic of Atlantis. Please like the video, all right, and share it, all right? Share it to your ex-girl that's with the guy that she used to cheat on you with, all right? Share it with her, all right? Really fuck up the date. I digress. enough with the big head scientist. Let's get this guy out here. Let's get this guy out here. Let's get back on topic, right? Because I know folks want to get into the book. Right? So let's get into the book, why don't we? My special interest in political Mexico was first awakened early in 1908 when I came in contact with 4 Mexican revolutionists who were at the time incarcerated in the county jail at Los Angeles, California. Here were 4 educated, intelligent Mexicans, college men, all of them, who were being held by the United States authorities on a charge of planning to invade a friendly nation, Mexico, with an armed force from American soil. Why should intelligent men take up arms against a republic? Why should they come to the United States to prepare for their military maneuvers? I talked with those Mexican prisoners. They assured me that at one time they had peacefully agitated in their own country for a peaceful and constitutional overthrow of the persons in control of their government. Now, as we know, folks, all right, the persons in control of their government is none other than the Baphomet worshiping brotherhood, all right? And you know, it's a holy month, so we can't kill anybody, all right? But I don't know if it said anything about sticking your foot out when they walk by and tripping them. Now, the stream seems very dry to me, folks, without the music in the background, all right? I don't know if I can do it. Honestly, all right? Sheesh. I digress. Why should intelligent men take up arms against a republic? All right? Well, let's fast forward. But for that very thing, they declared they had been imprisoned and their property had been destroyed. Secret police had dogged their steps. Their lives had been threatened and countless methods had been used to prevent them from carrying on their work. Finally, hunted as outlaws beyond the national boundaries, denied the rights of free speech, press, and assembly, denied the right peaceably to organize, to bring... Sheesh, hold the mayonnaise, guy. I know I've been fasting, but I'm not hungry enough to eat all the mayonnaise. Let's go.
And when Father's Day comes around this year, you should make sure you send me a Father's Day card, because you are my son.
Stop the music. Stop the music. We have an Aboriginal Moor in the building. Tribe. Shout out to my brother Rootwork.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Okay, that's incredible.
What is real? How do you define real? Real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
One God, the creator of the universe. One God, the creator of the universe.
Stop the music. Stop the music. Stop the music. All right? Before we give one of the nerds anxiety. All right? turn it down here. All right? Let's turn it down. Now, this is going to be very, very troubling, folks. All right? Because you're going to see the true origins of this whole Yaqui fiasco. All right? Now, I think I'm going to have to read a little mayonnaise. All right? So get your surfboards out, folks. All right? Because you're going to have to surf through a little Miracle Whip here. Stop the music. All right? Stop the music. So we can hear everybody's voice. All right? Because the mayonnaise is thick. All right? So everybody kind of stick together. All right? The police had dogged their steps, their lives had been threatened, and countless methods had been used to prevent them from carrying on their work. Finally, hunted as outlaws beyond the national boundaries, denied the rights of free speech, press, and assembly, denied the right peaceably to organize, to bring about political change, they had resorted. Now, mind you, folks, this is 1908, all right? They had resorted to the only alternative, arms. Why had they wished to overturn their government? Because it had set aside the Constitution, because it had abolished those civic rights which all enlightened men agree are necessary for the unfolding of a nation, because it had dispossessed the common people of their lands, because it had converted free laborers into serfs, peons, and some of them even into slaves, folks. Slavery? Do you mean to tell me there is any real slavery left in the Western Hemisphere? I scoffed. Bah, you are talking like an American socialist. You mean wage slavery or slavery to miserable conditions of livelihood. You don't mean chattel slavery. And actually, shout out to my brother Root, who just won the debate, all right? And I've been wanting to drop this, Root, but I didn't want it to affect anything you had going on there. You know what I'm saying? This is a very uncomfortable book. Goes on to say, all right, but those four Mexican exiles refused to give ground. Yes, slavery, they said, chattel slavery. Men, women, and children bought and sold like mules. Just like mules, and like mules, they belong to their masters. They are slaves. Human beings bought and sold like mules in America and in the 20th century. And if you don't know, folks, all right, let's go see if we can. That's my daughter singing. Let's see. This is a primary source, all right, folks? Primary source provide firsthand testimonies or direct evidence concerning a topic, all right, under investigation. All right, let's go straight to the Harvard Library Research Guide, all right? Before they think we got it off of Wikipedia, all right? Primary sources, all right, and this is according to Harvard, all right? This is the Library Research Guide for the History of Science, all right? Knowing a primary source when you see one. Primary sources provide firsthand testimony or direct evidence concerning a topic under investigation. They are created by witnesses or recorders who experience the events or conditions being documented, all right? Original documents, excerpts or translations acceptable. All right, these are some types of primary sources: diaries, speeches, manuscripts, letters, interviews. All right, this is a primary source, folks. All right, so let's not get it confused. I digress. Human beings bought and sold like mules in America and in the 20th century. Well, I told myself if it's true, I'm going to see it. So it was that early in September 1908, I crossed the Rio Grande, bound for my first trip through the backyards of Old Mexico. Upon this first trip, I was accompanied by El Gutierrez de Lara, a Mexican of distinguished family whose acquaintance I had made also in Los Angeles. De Lara was opposed to the existing government in Mexico. All right, and we know the existing government in Mexico is a whole bunch of Baphomet hermaphrodite worshipers. Respectfully, of course.
You are cut down to the ground. You who weaken the nation.
In between me and them other dudes and dick. You gonna diss me, and I'm gonna come see you, Jack. You gonna diss them other dudes, they gonna play hip rapper with you. So if you want it, man, come on with it. If you want it with me,
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Okay, that's incredible.
Whoa, wait. Stop the music. Midnight in Mexico City, Mason. Cheap lodging, house of the poor. One pays 3 centavos for a grass mat and runts. A place to lie down in the enclosure from a flashlight by the author. All right. So he's in the building. All right. We got toes on deck, folks. All right. Toes out. All right. Oh, man, we got some very, very interesting pictures here. I digress. Let's get back to the reading, all right? I'll leave the music on. On the contrary, I did not depend on Delora or any other biased sources for my information, but took every precaution to arrive at the exact truth and by as many different avenues as practicable. Every essential fact which I put down here in regard to the slavery of Mexico, I saw with my own eyes or heard with my own ears, and heard usually from those individuals who would be most likely to minimize their cruelties, the slave drivers themselves. Nevertheless, to the credit of Delora, I must say that he gave me most important aid in gathering my material by his knowledge of the country and the people, by his genius as a quote-unquote mixer, and above all through his personal acquaintances with valuable sources of information all over the country, men on the inside. All right, he's talking about the brotherhood, folks. All right. I was then able to see and hear things which are practically inaccessible to the ordinary investigator. Slavery in Mexico. Yes, I found it. I found it first in Yucatan, folks. Ouch. All right. And what's happened is these Bektashi secret brothers, all right? Sisters, I don't know what they call them. Thems, theys. I really shouldn't be doing this during Ramadan.
You are cut down to the ground. You who weakened the nation.
What's this guy's name? It's something Hawk. And it may sound stereotypical,
Stop the music.
but dude
Stop
looks
the
like
music.
he's done
Wait
some
a
time. And sounds like he's done some time.
Man, on the inside is nasty work.
I want to sign a deal. Sell my soul, sell my soul, sell my soul.
What is real? How do you define real? Real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
One at a time, y'all. We got the incredible Hawk in the building. What's up, man?
Oh, shit.
Hold on. Stop the music. I got to check my iHawk. All right. Let me check my text. Slavery in Mexico. Yes, I found it. I found it first in Yucatan. The peninsula of Yucatan is an elbow of Central America, which shoots off in a northeasterly direction almost halfway to Florida. Do we have the map up, folks? Let's get the map, all right? Let's get some visual aids. Do we have the map on deck? I could have swore I downloaded the map for these guys, all right? Well, you're going to have to Google it then, all right? Do we have it on deck? And I still have the Saracen build. I'll go ahead and we'll pull it up on the screen. I still have the Saracen build lined up. However, I thought that we needed this information, all right, before we did a deep dive on that, all right. because it's going to be very heavy. Open image in new tab. Now, here we see the Yucatan, all right? Yucatan Peninsula, all right? Let's zoom out a bit here. Okay. All right. Let's go to this screen, see if we can see it a little better here. All right, that's better. All right, so you see this orange or red area, whatever color you see, is the Yucatan Peninsula. You see the Gulf of Mexico. All right, you can see Cuba over here in the far right. All right, this is all Mexico. All right, but this is a very important trade area. All right, now that we know where exactly the Yucatan is. All right, because as you see here, folks, you can walk to Florida from here. All right, you don't have to be that bright. You can just walk along the edge of the ocean and follow the stars, all right? And you can walk clean to Georgia, all right, from Belize. And you can see that clearly on the map, all right? You would have to be an idiot, respectfully. Matter of fact.
And when Father's Day comes around this year, you should make sure you send me a Father's Day card because you are my son.
Yes, sir. That's right. There are white people in America and abroad that have great respect for Islam. Yes, sir. But they're not supposed to teach you Islam.
Stop the music.
This
Don't
is against their
Stop the
nature
music.
and
Sheesh. Forgive me, brother minister. All right? Forgive me. Let's show the screen, all right? Because a lot of this is going to be unbelievable. There's going to be a great amount of cognitive dissonance that's going to transpire as a result of this book, all right? Slavery in Mexico. Yes, I found it. I found it first in the Yucatan. The peninsula of Yucatan is an elbow of Central America, which shoots off in a northeasterly direction almost halfway to Florida. It belongs to Mexico, and its area of some 80,000 square miles is almost equally divided among the states of Yucatan and Campeche and the territory of Quintana Roo. The coast of Yucatan, which comprises the north-central part of the peninsula, is about 1,000 miles directly south of New Orleans. All right, we can surf past some of this mayo, okay, because you could have just showed us a map, guy. All right, sheesh, these people. All right, let's fast forward. The secret of these peculiar conditions. All right, let's find out what's going on with these peculiar conditions. We don't want it. I guess that's as good as it gets. The secret of these peculiar conditions is that the soil and the climate of northern Yucatan happen to be perfectly adapted to the production of the hardy species of century plant, which produces henequen or sisal hemp. All right, so I guess that also falls in the category of hemp, because before I looked it up, I'm like, hemp? I thought they were talking about some Heinekens or something, all right? I didn't know what the hell they were talking about, folks, all right? All right, where were we? All right. Hence, we find the city of Merida. All right, and you probably can't see that. I gotta have to bring this screen up. I don't know why it's looking all crazy like this. Where we at? 110, 10. All right. Well, now it's centered. I don't know what's going on. Now it's not. All right. I guess whoever scanned it, all right, fucked up to everything for us. All right. That's as good as it gets. All right. Nevertheless, I think that page is just off. All right. So, and all they're talking about is the farms. All right. The annual export of henequen from Yucatan approximates 250 million pounds. The population of Yucatan is almost 300,000. The Slaveholders Club numbers 250 members, but the vast majority of the lands and the slaves are concentrated in the hands of 50 Henican kings. The slaves number more than 100,000. All right. In order to secure the truth in its greatest purity from the lips of the masters of the slaves, I went among them playing a part. Long before I put my feet upon the white sands, all right, of Progreso, the port of Yucatan, I had heard how visiting investigators are bought or blinded, how if they cannot be bought, they are wined and dined and filled with falsehood, then taken over a route previously prepared, fooled, in short, so completely that they go away half believing that the slaves are not slaves, that the 100,000 half-starving, overworked, degraded bondsmen are perfectly happy and so contented with their lot that it would be a shame indeed to yield to them the freedom and security which in all humanity is the rightful share of every human being born upon the earth. The part which I played in Yucatan was that of an investor with much money to sink in Henican properties. Now, when I was first reading this, I thought it was some weed. All right, I heard hemp, Henican. I'm like, well, maybe it's some Mexican word for weed. And I just don't know what's going on. All right, and he's going in to buy in the drug business. All right. Now, I digress. Says I was rather fortunate in going to the Yucatan when I did until the panic of 1907. All right. It was a well understood and unanimously approved policy of the Cámara de Agricola, the planters organization, that foreigners should not be allowed to invade the Henican business. All right. The Brotherhood. All right. The slave masons control it. All right. They took an oath. They made a vow. And this Henican business and these 250 quote unquote kings, slaveholders. All right, this is the whole Yaqui story. It's going to take a little reading to get into it. All right, it's a 340-page book. We're not going to read that far. All right, but we're going to read quite a bit. So get your zuzus and your wham-whams, folks, your backwoods and your swishes and your rock-ons. All right. And we're going to unveil the true story of the grafting of the Mayans in the Yucatan, all right? This was partly because the profits of the business were huge and the rich Yucatecos wanted to hog it all for themselves, but more especially because they feared that through foreigners, the story of their misdeeds might become known to the world. But the panic of 1907 wiped out the world's Henican market for a time. The planters were a company of little Rockefellers, but they needed ready cash and they were willing to take it from anyone who came. Hence, my imaginary money was the open sesame to their club. All right, so he's going deep cover, folks. All right. My imaginary money was the open sesame to their club and to their farms. I not only discussed every phase of Henican production with the kings themselves, and while they were off their guard, but I observed thousands of slaves under their normal conditions. Chief among the Henican kings of the Yucatan is Eleuterio Molino, former governor of the state and secretary of Fomento, public promotion of Mexico. Molino's holdings of land in the Yucatan and Quintana Roo aggregate 15 million acres or 23,000 square miles, a small kingdom in itself. All right. The 50 kings live in costly palaces in Meridia, and many of them have homes abroad. They travel a great deal. Usually they speak several different languages, and they and their families are a most cultivated class of people. All right. So we're not talking about any Jibaro cowboys. All right. Respectfully. All Meridia and all Yucatan, even all the peninsula of Yucatan, are dependent on the 50 Henican kings. All right. Naturally, these men are in control of the political machinery of their state, and naturally, they operate that machinery for their own benefit. The slaves are 8,000 Yaqui. Oh, Hold on. We got to get this on the screen, folks. Matter of fact, we are going to have to zoom in, all right, because make sure they can see this, all right? It says the slaves are 8,000 Yaqui Indians imported from Sonora, all right? Where's Sonora, folks? Somebody put in the chat and tell me where is Sonora, all right, where these 8,000 Indians are being imported from Sonora. Let's see if somebody in the chat knows the slaves, all right? These 8,000 Yaqui Indians imported from Sonora. Where is Sonora, folks? 3,000 Chinese Koreans. Wait a minute. And between 100,000 and 125,000 native Mayas who formerly what, Hawk? Who formerly owned lands that the Hawkin kings now own. What?
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Okay, that's incredible.
How we do it?
What is real? How do you define real? Real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
In between me and them other dudes and dick, you gonna diss me, and I'm gonna come see you, Jack. You gonna diss them other dudes, they gonna play hip wrestler with you. So if you want it, man, come on with it. If you want it with me, come on with it.
When I just saw you, I just wanted to touch you. About you, and their incredible excitement about you. Incredible excitement about you.
You gonna feel my cologne, instant Yaqui, on the bar number 9, cause I do not play.
That same clone I wear.
Down the sanctuary, cause we keep God first in everything we do.
Hey, Pim.
Stop the music. Stop the music. Stop the music. Stop the music. Let's get back to it. The slaves are 8,000 Yaqui Indians imported from Sonora, 3,000 Chinese Koreans, and between 100,000 and 125,000 native Mayas who formerly owned the lands that the Hawkin kings now own. The Maya people indeed form about 95% of the population of the Yucatán. Even the majority of the 50 Hawkin kings are Mayas crossed with the blood of Spain. The Mayas are Indians. The Mayas are Indians. The Mayas are Indians. And yet they are not Indians. They are not like the Indians of the United States, and they call Indians only because their homes were in the Western Hemisphere when the Europeans came. The Mayas had a civilization of their own when the Europeans, quote unquote, discovered them, and it was a civilization admittedly as high as that of the most advanced Aztecs or Incas or Peru. Let's go. No, let the music play.
Who named you coming in? By who power? Is what?
What's this guy's name? It's something Hawk. And it may sound stereotypical, but dude looks like he's done some time. And sounds like he's done some time.
In between me and them other dudes and dick, you gonna diss me. Perfect. And I'm gonna see you, Jack. You gonna diss them other dudes, they gonna play hip wrestler with you. So if you want it, man, come on with it. If you want it with me, you gonna smell my cologne, instant Yaqui, on the bar number 9, cause I do not play.
That same clone I wear.
Stop the music. Stop the music. All right. Who gave Chingaling a black and mild?
One at a time, y'all. We got the incredible Hawk in the building. What's up, man?
Oh, shit.
In between me and them other dudes and dick, you gonna diss me, and I'm gonna come see you, Jack. You gonna diss them other dudes, they gonna play hip wrestler with you. So if you
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Okay, that's incredible.
What's this guy's name? It's something Hawk.
Hold on. You come to my house. Don't you ever bring scared business to me. I run shit. I kill for nothing. And I make that some money I deal with it. And don't bring that shit again. You know
Stop the music. All right. The Mayas had a civilization of their own when the Europeans discovered them, and was a civilization admittedly as high as that of the most advanced Aztecs or the Incas of Peru. The Mayas are a peculiar people. They look like no other people on the face of the earth. They are not like other Mexicans. They are not like Americans. They are not like Chinamen. They are not like East Indians. They are not like Turks. Yet one might very easily imagine that fusion of all these 5 widely different peoples might produce a people much like the Mayas. They are not large in stature, but their features are remarkably finely chiseled, and their bodies give a strong impression of elegance and grace. Their skins are olive, their foreheads high, their faces slightly aquiline. The women of all classes in Meridia wear long, flowing white gowns. Now, remember, folks, all right, we're going to get into the book. Don't fall out yet, all right, because he said they're olive, all right, because he said they're light-skinned niggas, all right. Let's see if we can get one of these olive 1908. Now, these are some Yaqui Indians, all right. These are Yaqui Indians, all right. Now you see how they rocking, all right? They in Perta, all right? All right? So if you want to see what they looking like, all right? She's nice and olive, all right? There's one of your olive Indians, all right? We don't want any confusion here, folks, with this guy's description. I digress. Their skins are olive, their foreheads high, their faces slightly aquiline. The women of all classes in Meridia wear long, flowing white gowns, unbound at the waist and embroidered about the hem and perhaps also about the bust in some bright color, green, blue, or purple. In the warm evenings, a military band plays 100 and hundreds of comely women and girls, thus alluringly attired. Among the fragrant flowers, the art statues, and the tropical greenery of the city plaza, the planters do not call their chattel slaves. They call them people, quote unquote, or laborers, especially when speaking to strangers. But when speaking confidentially, they have said to me, yes, they are slaves. But I did not accept the word slavery from these people of Yucatan. Now, and again, in the reading, because I know, these Pan-African guys are going to go nuts when they hear this, all right? They're olive, all right? But what he's talking about is the people he's seeing now, all right? And we're going to get into what was actually being done to the people to make it to where the population is lighter colored, all right? We're going to get into it, so please stay tuned, share a lot. But I did not accept the word slavery from the people of Yucatan, though they were the holders of the slaves themselves. The proof of a fact is to be found not in the name, but in the conditions thereof. Excuse me. Slavery is the ownership of the body of a man, an ownership so absolute that the body can be transferred to another. An ownership that gives to the owner a right to take the products of that body, to starve it, to chastise it at will, to kill it with impunity. Such is slavery in the extreme sense. Excuse me. No, nigga ain't ate. You know what I'm saying? Right up. Such is slavery in the extreme sense, such as slavery as found in Yucatan. Now, remember when I told you in the beginning of the video, we're going to be talking about the grafting of the original man, all right? And if you're not familiar, all right, that's the whole Yaqub's story. Such is slavery in the extreme sense. Such is slavery as I found it in Yucatan. The masters of Yucatan do not call their system slavery. They call it enforced service for debt. We do not consider that we own our laborers. We consider that they are in debt to us. And remember, folks, this is 1908. All right. And I believe I have the video. We've seen the video of Jack Johnson and how he was living in this same time period. All right. Like night and day, folks. So stay with me. Such is slavery as I found it in the Yucatan. All right. The masters of the Yucatan do not call their system slavery. They call it enforced service for debt. We do not consider that we own our laborers. We consider that they are in debt to us, and we do not consider that we buy and sell them. We consider that we transfer the debt, and the man goes with the debt. All right. Now, if you're paying attention, this is a system that is in full effect in America as we speak, folks. All right. So please pay attention. This is the way Don Enrique Camara Zavella, president of the Cámara de Agricola de Yucatan, explained the attitude of the Hawkin kings in the matter. Slavery is against the law. We do not call it slavery. Various planters assured me again and again. But the fact that it is not service for debt is proven by the habit of transferring the slaves from one master to another, not on any basis of debt, but on the basis of the market price of a man. In figuring on the purchase of a plantation, I always had a figure on paying cash for the slaves, exactly the same as for the land, the machinery, and the cattle. 400 Mexican dollars apiece was the prevailing price, and that it was the planters, and it was what the planters usually asked me. If you buy now, you buy at a very good time. Quote unquote. I was told again and again, the panic has put the price down. 1 year ago, the price of each man was $1,000. The Yaquis are transferred on exactly the same basis as the Mayas. The market price of a slave, and yet all the people of the Yucatan know that the planters pay only $65 apiece to the government for each Yaqui. I was offered for $400 each Yaqui, and who had not been in the country a month and consequently had no opportunity of rolling up a debt that would account for the difference in price. Moreover, one of the planters told me we don't allow the Yaquis to get in debt with us. All right. It would be absurd to suppose that the reason the price was uniform was because all slaves were equally in debt. I probed this matter a little by inquiring into the details of the selling transaction. You get the photograph and identification papers with the man, quote unquote, said one, and that's all. You get the identification papers and the account of the debt, said another. We don't keep much account of the debt, said a third, because it doesn't matter after you got possession of the man. The man and the identification papers are enough, said another. If your man runs away, the papers are all the authority requires for you to get him back again. All right. Whatever the debt, it takes the market price to get him free again, a fifth told me. Conflicting as some of these answers are, they all tend to show one thing, that the debt counts for nothing after the debtor passes into the hands of the planter. Whatever the debt, it makes the market price to get the debtor free again. All right. Even then, I thought it would not be so bad if the servant had an opportunity of working out the price and buying back his freedom. Even some of our Negro slaves before the Civil War were permitted by exceptionally lenient masters to do that. But I found that such was not the custom. You need have no fear in purchasing this plantation, said one planter to me. Excuse me. Of the laborers being able to buy their freedom and leave you, they can never do that. The only man in the country whom I have heard of as having ever permitted a slave to buy his freedom was a professional man of Meridia, an architect. All right. I bought a laborer for $1,000, he explained to me. He was a good man and helped me a lot about my office. After I got to liking him, I credited him with so much wages per week. After 8 years, I owed him the full $1,000, so I let him go. All right. So they're just finessing him with debts. All right. And we'll get into the specifics of that as we read forward. But they never do that on the plantation, never. Thus, I learned that the debt feature of the enforced service does not alleviate the hardship of the slave by making it easier for him to free himself. Neither does it affect the conditions of his sale or his complete subjection to his master. On the other hand, I found the one particular in which this debt element does play an actual part in the destiny of the unfortunate of Yucatan militants against him instead of operating in his favor. For it is by means of debt that the Yucatán slave driver gets possession of the free laborers of his realm to replenish the overworked and underfed, the overbeating, the dying slaves of his plantation. Quote, end quote. How are the slaves recruited? Don Hawkin Peon informed me that the Maya slaves die off faster than they are born. And Don Enrique Camara Zavella told me that the 2/3 of the Yaquis died during the first year of their residence in the country. Hence, the problem of recruiting the slaves seems to me a very serious one. Of course, the Yaquis were coming in at the rate of 500 per month. 500 Indians per month are coming in from California, folks. All right? 500 per month. And now these guys want to debate you about the California Indians, all right? And I find that very, very troubling to me personally, all right? A band of Yaquis on the Exile Road, all right? So they want you to find the black people, all right? The Negroes, the Negro Indians from California, all right? And as you see, these people are, they would be considered Moors if they were seen by someone of the, I mean, this looks like it's in goddamn Saudi Arabia, folks. These are Yaqui Indians on the Exile Road. All right? And now you have these Masonic guys, all right? And they're you see how they're washing them away, all right? You can see she clearly has Negro features, all right? But now she's olive, folks, all right? These are Yaqui Indians, all right? With their veils, all right? With the baby has a turban on, folks, all right? These are clearly Saracens from California.
What is real? How do you define real? Real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Another time, y'all. We got the incredible Hawk in the building. What's up, man? Oh, shit.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Okay, that's incredible.
Perfect. In between me and the other dudes and dick. You gonna miss me, and I'm gonna come see you, Jack. You gonna miss them other dudes, they gonna play hip rap with you. So if you want it, man, come on with it. If you want it with me,
Who named you coming in? By who power? Is what? It's the Spirit of God. See, the Spirit of God is omnipotent. And it works on your ass, and I can be far, far away. Because it's considered conscious.
When I first saw you, I just wanted to touch you, about you, and the incredible excitement about you, incredible excitement about you.
our people here in the West.
Who named you coming in? By who power? Is what?
Yeah, there's many songs that's going around and going like a cloud, but I'm telling you, clean up your house and come to the livestock, cause you are just a morning and now is evening, everything changed.
Hello. Hello. I know what you're thinking right now.
I can't believe what I'm seeing.
I know all of this is a lot for you to digest.
Say hi to Zaddy.
Zaddy.
Say hi. Say hi.
Zaddy.
Zaddy.
I want you to try and relax.
Relax. Try and relax.
Try and relax.
Zaddy will always be here to help you remain in a state of brainwashed illusion.
Brainwashed illusion. Delusion. Delusion.
Brainwashed illusion.
Many will experience what psychology refers to as cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance.
It's okay. This is completely normal. Here at Hawk School for the Gifted and the Elect understand many will be left with no Zaddy to emulate.
No Zaddy to emulate.
Idolize and worship.
Idolize and worship.
So we have created a new company.
New company.
Zaddy International.
Zaddy. Zaddy. Zaddy.
Zaddy International.
Zaddy International.
International. International. Zaddy International.
Zaddy.
Say hi to Zaddy.
Say hi.
Order today.
Today.
We can get through this video together.
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 How about we pretend we never heard any of this and continue in blind worship of Zaddy?
Blind worship of Zaddy.
Blind worship of Zaddy.
Blind worship.
Blind worship of Zaddy.
Agree?
Agree?
Agreed.
Now let Zaddy see those teeth.
I'll let Zaddy see those teeth.
That's more like it.
That's more like it.
We like happy ghouls.
Ghouls.
Say cheese.
Say cheese.
I'll see you later at the lodge. See you later at the lodge.
I'll see you later at the lodge.
I'll see you later at the lodge.
What is real? How do you define real? Real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Bro, if a nigga lie to you, a nigga kill you. Same nigga lie to you will kill you, bro. A nigga that'll lie to you will kill you, bro. Alright? Stop the music, alright? Stop the music. Stop the music. That's enough, folks. Alright? Let's calm it down. Let's calm it down. Hence, the problem of recruiting the slaves seemed to me a very serious one. Of course, the Yaquis were coming in at the rate of 500 per month, yet I hardly thought that influx would be sufficient to equal the tide of life that was going out by death. I was right in that surmise, so I was informed, but I was also informed that the problem of recruits was not difficult after all. It is very easy, one planter told me. All that is necessary is that you get some free labor and debt to you, and then you have him. Yes, we are always getting new laborers in that way, quote unquote. The amount of the debt does not matter so as long as it is a debt, and the little transaction is arranged by men who combine the functions of moneylender and slave broker. Some of them have offices in Meridian, and they get the free laborers, clerks, and the poor class of people generally into debt, just as professional loan sharks of America get clerks, mechanics, and office men into debt by playing on their needs and tempting them. Were these American clerks, mechanics, and office men residents of the Yucatan, instead of being merely hounded by a loan shark, they would be sold into slavery for all time. They and their children and their children's children, onto the third and fourth generation and even farther, onto such a time as some political changes puts a stop to the conditions of slavery altogether in Mexico. Now, as you see, folks, this is over 100 years ago, and this is common practice. All right, you are a wage slave. All right, a slave to debt, folks. All right. These money-lending slave brokers of Meridia do not hang out signs and announce to the world that they have slaves to sell. They do their business quietly as people who are comparatively safe in their occupation, but people who do not wish to endanger their business by too great publicity, like police-protected gambling houses in the American city, for example. These slave sharks were mentioned to me by the Hawkin kings themselves, cautiously by them as a rule. Other old residents of the Yucatan explained their methods in detail. I was curious to visit one of these brokers and talk with him about purchasing a lot of slaves, but I was advised against it and was told that they would not talk to a foreigner until the latter had established himself in the community and otherwise proved his good faith. These men buy and sell slaves, and the planters buy and sell slaves. I was offered slaves in lots of one up by the planters. I was told that I could buy a man or a woman or a boy or a girl, or 1,000 of any of them. Please share the live stream. All right. You know I'm big Satcham of the Shadow Band, folks. This must get out. All right. 500 California Indians. All right. A day. Oh, we're going to get into it. You haven't heard anything yet, folks. I was told that I could buy a man or a woman or a boy or a girl or 1,000 of any of them to do with them exactly as I wished. That the police would protect me in my possession of those, my fellow beings. Slaves are not only used on the Hawkin plantations, but in the city as personal servants, as laborers, as household drudges, as prostitutes. How many of these persons there are in the city of Meridia, I do not know, though I heard many stories of the absolute power exercised over them. Certainly the number is several thousand. So we see that the debt element in the Yucatan not only does not palliate the condition of the slave, but rather makes it harder. All right, let's fast forward. All right, here's the slave mother and child, all right, in the Hawkin plant. All right, clearly Walter Plecker, all right, would call her a Negro or colored. All right, I think I have a, where is that picture? Here, we could get rid of this one. Where is it? I thought I had that picture. Yeah, there it is. All right, so we can zoom in, all right? And you tell me, all right, if Walter Plecker would have said she was a Negro, all right, if it was her and her Negro, her colored child, all right, if they would have been classified as Negro in 1924 by Walter Plecker, put a 1 in the chat, all right? Put a 1 in the chat. Somebody shared a live stream. What happened? Did one of the Freemason guys go live again to prevent anybody from coming to my live stream? Like, come on, guys. It's getting monotonous with you idolaters and you pagans, all right? We're doing Saracen work over here, all right? Let me see. Let me find out one of these Freemason Moorish guys, all right? One of these undercovers went live as soon as I went live, all right? Because I specifically made sure I checked to see if anyone was live, all right? Because I know you might have 5 of these Freemasonic, CIA, Moorish, moist Americans, all right? Because they're all together. ISIS cult, the Pan-Africans, all of these idolaters are all together, all right? They're all together, folks. And continuously, I wait to go live, and as soon as I go live, a whole slew of these idolaters decide to start streaming to prevent people from coming to my channel, as if I don't know. All right? What are they teaching? What are they teaching? All right? Are they teaching you that there was an experiment in the Yucatan with the big brain scientist? No, that's not what happened. All right? Women are cheaper than grist mills. Share the live stream. I digress. Why do the Hawkin Kings call their system enforced service for debt instead of by its right name? Probably for 2 reasons. Because the system is the outgrowth of a milder system, of actual service for debt, and because of the prejudice against the word slavery, both among Mexicans and foreigners. Service for debt in a milder form than is found in the Yucatan exists all over Mexico and is called peonage. Under this system, police authorities everywhere recognize the right of an employer, all right? And this is what's going on in Mexico now, all right? And you got these Freemason guys telling you, oh, my God, they're invading the land. Bro, they've been down there for like 100 years, my nigga. Read a fucking book, all right?
In between me and them other dudes and dick. You gonna diss me, and I'm gonna come see you, Jack. You gonna diss them other dudes, they gonna play lip wrestling with you. So if you want it, man, come on with it. If you want it with me, come on with it.
What's this guy's name? It's something Hawk.
Newsflash, you ain't my friend in the first place.
You are cut down to the ground. You who weaken the nation.
Stop the music. Stop the music. All right. We got to get back to teaching. All right. Under this system, police authorities everywhere recognize the right of an employer to take the body of a laborer who is in debt to him and to compel the laborer to work out the debt. Of course, once the employer can compel the laborer to work, he can compel him to work at his own terms, and that means that he can work him on such terms as will never permit the laborer to extricate himself from his debt. All right, and you may be looking at this peonage system as if it were some type of fantasy, all right? But this is actually the system that we are living under here in the Americas, all right? Some of us, all right, less fortunate, all right? So please study business, all right? Get yourself a LLC or a corporation, all right? Don't do business in your personal name. This is not financial advice. Such is peonage as it exists throughout all Mexico. In the last analysis, it is slavery, but the employers control the police, all right? And the fictional distinction is kept up all the same. Slavery is peonage carried to its greatest possible extreme. All right. The Hawkin kings, we're going to fast forward a bit. All right. Surf through the mayo, if you will. The Hawkin kings of Yucatán seek to excuse their system of slavery by denominating it enforced service for debt. Slavery is against the law, quote unquote. They say it is against the Constitution. When a thing is abolished by your Constitution, it works more smoothly if called by another name. All right. But the fact is, service for debt is just as unconstitutional in Mexico as chattel slavery. The plea of the Hawkin king of keeping within the law is entirely without foundation. A comparison of the following two clauses from the Mexican Constitution will show that the two systems are in the same class. All right, and here they're talking about Article 1, Section 1 in the Republic. All are born free. Slaves who set foot upon the national territory recover, but that they act alone, their liberty, and have a right to the protection of the laws. Fast forward, all right. The slaves of Yucatan get no money. They are half starved. They are worked almost to death. They are beaten. A large percentage of them are locked up every night in a house resembling a jail. If they are sick, they must still work. And if they are so sick that it is impossible for them to work, they are seldom permitted the services of a physician. The women are compelled to marry. All right, so here comes the Yaqub mystery. All right. The women are compelled to marry men of their own plantation only, and sometimes are compelled to marry certain men not of their choice. There are no schools for the children. Indeed, the entire lives of the people are ordered at the whim of a master, and if the master wishes to kill them, he may do so with impunity. I heard numerous stories of slaves being beaten to death, but I never heard of an instance in which the murderer was punished or even arrested. The police, the public prosecutors, and the judges know exactly what is expected of them, for the men who appoint them are the planters themselves, the jefes politicos, all right? Political bosses, I'm sure it is in Spanish, the rulers of the political districts corresponding to our counties, who are as truly czars of the districts as Diaz is the czar of all Mexico, are invariably either Hawkin planters or employees of Hawkin planters. All right. So apparently before this whole marijuana thing, and it seems that this is what they're making us think, that all of their money came from marijuana, when clearly we can see 100 years ago they had these Hawkin plantations and they were killing the California Indians, the colored Negro Indians. And we'll get more into that proof from this affidavit, this primary source, if you will. The first mention of corporal punishment for the slaves was made to me by one of the members of the Camara, a large portly fellow with the bearing of an opera singer and a white diamond shining at me like a sun from his slab-like shirt front. He told the story, and as he told it, he laughed. I laughed too, but in a little different way. I could not help feeling that the story was made to order to fit strangers. Oh, yes, we have to punish them, quote unquote, said the fat king of Henneken. We even are compelled to whip the house servants at the city. It is their nature. They demand it. A friend of mine, a very mild man, had a woman servant who was always wishing to serve somebody else. My friend finally sold the woman, and some months later he met her on the street and asked her how she liked her new master. Finally, she answered, finally. You see, my master is a very rough man, and he beats me nearly every day. The philosophy of beating was made very clear to me by Don Felipe G. Canton, Secretary of the Camara. It is necessary to whip them. Oh, yes, very necessary, he told me with a smile, for there is no other way to make them do what you wish. What other means is there of enforcing the discipline of the farm? If we did not whip them, they would do nothing. I could make no reply. I could think of no ground upon which to assail Don Felipe's logic, for what, pray, can be done to a chattel slave to make him work but to beat him? With the wage worker, you have the fear of discharge or the reduction of wages to hold over his head and make him toe the mark. But the chattel slave would welcome discharge, and as to reducing his food supply, you don't dare do that or you kill him outright. At least that is the case in Yucatan. All right. One of the first sights we saw on a Henneken plantation was the beating of a slave, a formal beating before the assembled toilers of the ranch early in the morning, just after the daily roll call. The slave was taken on the back of a huge Chinaman and given 15 lashes across the bare back with a heavy wet rope, lashes so lustily delivered that the blood ran down the victim's body. This method of beating is an ancient one in Yucatan and is the customary one on all plantations for boys and all except the heaviest men. Women are required to kneel to be beaten, as sometimes are men of great weight. Men and women are beaten in the fields as well as at the morning roll call. Each foreman or capatus carries a heavy cane with which he punches and prods and whacks the slaves at will. All right. I do not remember visiting a single field in which I do not see some of them punching and prodding and whacking going on. I saw no punishments worse than beatings in Yucatan, but I heard of them. I was told of men being strung up by their fingers or toes to be beaten, of their being thrust into black dungeon-like holes, of water being dropped on the hand until the victim screamed, of the extremity of a female punishment being found in some outrage to the sense of the modesty in the woman. I saw black holes, and everywhere I saw the jail dormitories, armed guards and night guards who patrolled the outskirts of the farm settlements while the slaves slept. I heard also of planters who took special delight in personally superintending the beatings of their chattel. For example, speaking of one of the richest planters in Yucatan, a professional man of Meridia said to me, a favorite pastime of blank was to sit on his horse and watch the quote-unquote cleaning up, the punishment of his slaves. He would strike a match to light his cigar. At the first puff of smoke, the first stroke of the wet rope would fall on the bare back of the victim. He would smoke on leisurely, contentedly, as the blows fell one after another. When the entertainment finally paled on him, he would, throw away his cigar, and the man with the rope would stop, for the end of the cigar was the signal for the end of the beating. The great plantations of the Yucatan are reached by private mule car lines built and operated specially for businesses of the Henneken kings. The first plantations that we visited was typical, situated 15 miles west of Meridia. It contains 36 square miles of land. One fourth of it in Henneken, part of the rest in pasture and other part unreclaimed. In the center of the plantation is the farm settlement consisting of grass-growing patio or yards surrounding which are the main farm buildings, blah, blah, blah. Finally, surrounding are all the rows of one-room huts set in little patches of ground in which reside the married slaves and their families. Here we found 1,500 slaves and about 30 bosses of various degrees. 30 of the slaves were Koreans. All right. So you're wondering why these phenotypes are changing in Mexico. All right. 30 of the slaves were Koreans, about 200 were Yaquis, and the rest were Mayas. The Maya slaves, to my eyes, differed from the free Mayas I had seen in the city, principally in their clothing and their general unkept and overworked appearance. Certainly they were of the same clay. Their clothing was poor and ragged, yet generally clean. The women wore calico, the men the thin, unbleached cotton shirt and trousers of the tropics, the trousers being rolled up to the knees. Their hats were, of course, straw or grass, their feet always bare. 700 of the slaves are able-bodied men, the rest women and children. 380 of the men are married and live with their families in the one-room huts. And you know what's funny is when he explained that description sounds like the image we see of the alcaldes. All right. There's the description of the outfit. All right. These are traditional Spanish municipal magistrates who had both judicial and administrative function. Alcalde was the absence of a corregidor, the presiding officer of the Castilian cabildo. All right. So before these Freemason guys came in, all right, the Mayan alcaldes from Guatemala, 1891, folks. All right. Now we're reading that they're being enslaved by Freemasons just 10 years later.
الس-
700 of the slaves are able-bodied men. The rest, women and children. 380 of the men are married and live with their families in the one-room huts. These huts are set in little patches of ground, 144 feet square, which rocky and barren as they are, cultivated to some small purpose by the women and children. In addition, the product of their barren garden patch each finally receives daily credit, blah, blah, blah. All right. And this is, I believe, the roll call. I might have to save it to rotate and all this so extra shit. Pause. I'm sure we'll have to do a part 2, all right? Because there's so much in here, all right? Let's fast forward a bit. The slaves rise from their bed when the big bell on the patio rings at 3:45 o'clock in the morning. And their work begins as soon thereafter as they can get to it. Their work in the fields ends when it's too dark to see, and about the yards it sometimes extends until long into the night. All right, so here's their plantation work, but I wanted to get to, let's see. Now, and here, because we know that the alcalde is the mayoral system, all right? It says, not only do not the owners of the great Hawkin farms of the Yucatan live on their farms, but neither do the managers. Like the owners, the managers have their homes and their offices in Meridia, and visit the plantations only from 2 to half a dozen times a month. The mayordomo primero, all right, is ordinarily the supreme ruler of the plantation, but when the manager or administrator heaves in sight, the mayordomo primero becomes a very insignificant personage indeed. At least that was the case of San Antonio Yaqui. The big mayordomo was compelled to bow and scrape before the boss, just as were the lesser foremen. And at mealtime, Manuel Rios, the administrator, I and my companion, the latter much to the disgust of Rios, who looked upon him as an underling. All right, so these are the baby bosses at this time. All right. I wanted to fast forward where they were dealing with the actual grafting. All right. Let's see. Let's fast forward. Where was it? Oh yeah, I almost forgot. If you're new here, this is what we do here. I am the Incredible Hawkin. This is Hawk School for the Gifted and the Elect, and we're broadcasting live from the emphatically immaculate Republic of Atlantis. Don't get it twisted. All right. I was afterwards to learn how admirably the Yucatan country is adapted to preventing the escape of runaways. No fruits or eatable herbs grow wild in that rocky land. There are no springs and no place where a person can dig a well without a rock drill and dynamite. So every runaway in time finds his way to a plantation or to the city. At either place he is caught and held for identification. A free laborer who does not carry papers to prove that he is free is always liable to be locked up and put to much trouble to prove that he is not a runaway slave. All right. The Yucatan has been compared to Russia's Siberia, quote unquote. Mexican political refugees have told me is hell frozen over. Yucatan is hell aflame. But I did not see many points in common between the two countries. True, the Yaquis are exiles, in a sense, and political exiles at that, but they are also slaves. All right, 1908, folks. The political exiles of Russia are not slaves. According to Kenman, they are permitted to take their families with them, to choose their own abode, to live their own life, and are often given a small monthly stipend on which to live, okay? So these are your Slavs coming in, all right, with the help of their Russian nobles who have already been here for 200 years prior, all right? I could not imagine Siberia as being as bad as Yucatan. The Yucatan slave gets no hour for lunch, as does the American ranch hand, all right? And again, he's comparing these Siberians to American ranch hands, folks, all right? Use the context clues. He goes to the field in the morning twilight, eating his lump of sourdough on the way. He picks up his machete and attacks the blah, blah, blah. I really don't want to hear all this, okay? 12 of these, the 12 largest, are cut every 4 months, blah, blah, blah. Over and over again, I have compared in my mind the condition of the slaves of the Yucatan with what I have read of the slaves of southern states before the Civil War. And always the result has been in favor of the black man. Our slaves of the South were almost always well-fed. As a rule, they were not overworked. As a rule, wait, what? On many plantations, they were rarely beaten. It was usual to give them a little spending money. Like, what the fuck is going on, folks? Okay. Well, let me give you a little clarity here. All right. Because this slave narrative is kind of hard to understand when you don't know anybody had any jobs. All right. This idea of being an employee didn't come about until 1850. All right. As you can see in the reflection of the etymology of the word employee, a person employed, 1850. All right. So in 1849, I assumed that an employee would be a slave. I mean, what would he be called? Now and then, and to allow them to leave the plantation at least once a week. What are we talking about here, folks? This is clearly a bad contract. Okay? Like the slaves of the Yucatan, they were cattle of the ranch, but unlike the former, they were treated as well as cattle. In the South before the war, there were not so many plantations where the Negroes died faster than they were born. The lives of our black slaves were not so hard, but they could laugh sometimes and sing. But the slaves of the Yucatan do not sing. I shall never forget my last day in Merida. Merida is probably the cleanest and most beautiful little city in all Mexico. All right, the reason they're probably not singing is because they're Saracens, sir. All right, we don't do a whole lot of singing, respectfully. I shall never forget my last day in Merida. Merida is probably the cleanest and most beautiful little city in all Mexico. It might even challenge comparison in its white prettiness with any other in the world. The municipality, public buildings, and all over and above this, the Hawkin kings not long since made up a rich purse for improvements extraordinary. My last afternoon and evening in Yucatan, I spent riding and walking about the wealthy residence section of Merida. Americans might expect to find nothing of art and architecture down on this rocky Central American peninsula, but Merida has its million-dollar palaces like New York. Again, this is 1908, folks. Wait, there's million-dollar palaces in 1908 in Mexico? And it has miles of them. I said miles of them set in miraculous gardens, folks. All right. Wonderful Mexican palaces, quote unquote. Wonderful Mexican gardens, quote unquote. A wonderful fairyland conjured out of slavery. Slavery of Mayas and of Yaquis. All right. Among the Yucatan slaves, there are 10 Mayas to 1 Yaqui, but of the two, the story of the Yaquis appealed to me the more. The Mayas are dying in their own land and with their own people. The Yaquis are exiles. All right, these are the California Indians. Shout out to Smoke Signal. All right, tribe. The Yaquis are exiles. They are dying in a strange land. They are dying faster and they are dying alone, away from their families. For every Yaqui family, sent to the Yucatan is broken up on the way. Husbands and wives are torn apart, and babes are taken from their mother's breasts. Let's get a picture of these Saracens. Let's get these Saracens back up here. All right, because these pagans, all right, these pagans who have been telling you your history, all right. I mean, what are we looking at here, folks? So these are pagans? Everybody's veiled up? The baby got on a turban? The baby got on a turban, bro. She's trying to cover her face right now because they taking a picture. And she's an OG. She don't want them to see her face. These are your California Indians, your Saracens, all right? Because we know when Matamoros, I mean, you can do a light search on that. All right? Matamoros is a Spanish surname and place name, meaning moor killer. All right? Mexico. Look at all these places in Mexico called Matamoros. Moor killer. In Mexico. Moor killer. 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 What's going on here, folks? What do we have to explain here? They are dying faster, and they are dying alone, away from their families. For every Yaqui family sent to the Yucatan is broken up on the way. Husbands and wives are torn apart, and babes are taken from their mother's breasts. The extermination of the Yaquis. All right? Put some gems in the chat if you're learning something. And shout out to the... We're going to get into the extermination of the Yaquis. All right. Right after this commercial break, folks. Peace to the tribes.
What's this guy's name? It's something Hawk. And it may sound stereotypical, but dude looks like he's done some time. And sounds like he's done some time.
You gonna get some other dude, they gonna play lip rapping with you. So if you want it, man, come on with it. If you want it with me, come on with it. You gonna smell my cologne. Incident Yaqui on the bar number 9. Cause I do not play.
That's same clone I ride.
Cause we keep God first in everything we do.
Hey, pimp.
One at a time, y'all. We got the incredible Hawk in the building. What's up, man? Oh, shit.
Hold on. You come in my house. Don't you ever bring scared business to me. I run shit. I kill for nothing. And I make lots of money and deal with the business. Don't bring that shit to me. Again. You hear me?
What is real? How do you define real? Real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Bliss be unto you all. Welcome to Hawk School for the Gifted and the Elect. Please share the live stream and smash that like button. If you're new here, this is what we do here. Too high for pigeons to fly. You too can learn to walk on the water and live in the sky. Subscribe to the Unconquered Tribe.
Dom the Mongo. Dom the Mongo.
Yo, the extermination of the Yaquis, all right? My real purpose in journeying to Yucatan was to find out what became of the Yaqui Indians at Sonora, in common with thousands of other Americans who have lived for years in our southwest and near the borderline of Mexico. I knew something of the suffering of the Yaquis in their native state, of the means which had been taken to stir them to revolt, of the confiscation of their lands, of the methods of extermination employed by the army, and of the indignation voiced by the element of Sonora, finally of President Diaz's sweeping order of deportation. All right. And thank God for Ramadan, folks, because just knowing that these guys have the audacity to allow their Freemasonic zaddy to send them to Indian country and bequest that we debate the existence of the California Indians that these Hispanics have attempted to exterminate, I find quite troubling. And I have to say to that, folks, you have 20 days, all right? You have 20 days until it is permissible for me to, again, begin to massacre all idolaters, traitors, and infiltrators on sight. 20 days.
In between me and them other dudes and Dick, you gonna diss me, and I'm gonna come see you, Jack. You gonna diss them other dudes, they gonna play lip wrestling with you. So if you want it, man, come on with it. If you want it with me, come on. Perfect. You gonna smell my cologne, instant Yaqui, on some bar number 9, cause I do not play.
That's the same clone I wear.
Tabernacle sanctuary, cause we keep God first in everything we do.
Hey, Pimp.
Put some gems in the chat if you can hear me loudly and clearly. It says, not responding is what the computer's saying. All right, so I don't know if you can hear me or not. I guess I struck a nerve with the alphabet boys. But we know what they're trying to do. Stop the music. Stop the music. Put some gems in the chat if you can still hear me loudly and clearly. I can't do anything to the computer, okay? So I'm just going to read and hopefully you can hear me. I knew that the order of deportation was being carried out and that hundreds of families were being gathered up monthly and sent away into exile. But what fate was awaiting them there at the end of that exile road? The answer was always vague, indefinite, unsatisfactory. Even well-informed Mexicans of their country's metropolis could not tell me. After the Yaqui exiles sailed from the port of Veracruz, the curtain dropped upon them. I went to Yucatan in order to witness, if possible, the final act in the life drama of the Yaqui nation, and I witnessed it. The Yaquis are being exterminated, and exterminated fast. There is no room for controversy as to that. The only controversy relates to whether or not the Yaquis deserve to be exterminated. It is undoubtedly true that a portion of their number have persistently refused to accept the destiny that the government has marked out for them. On the other hand, there are those who assert that the Yaquis are as worthy as other Mexicans and deserve as much consideration at the hands of their rulers. The extermination of the Yaquis began in war. Its finish is being accomplished in deportation and slavery. The Yaquis are called Indians. Like the Maya of Yucatán, they are Indians, and yet they are not Indians. In the United States, we could not call them Indians, for they are workers. As far back as the history can be traced, they have never been savages. They have been an agricultural people. They tilled the soil, discovered and developed mines, constructed systems of irrigation, built adobe towns, maintained public schools, had an organized government, and their own mint. When the Spanish missionaries came among them, they were in possession of practically the whole of that vast territory south of Arizona, which today comprises the state of Sonora. They are the best workers in Sonora, quote unquote. Colonel Francisco B. Cruz, the very man who has charge of their deportation to Yucatan and of whom I will have more to say later, told me, one Yaqui laborer is worth 2 ordinary Americans and 3 ordinary Mexicans. E.F. Trout, a Sonora mine foreman, told me they are the strongest, soberest, and most reliable people in Mexico. Another one told me the government is taking our best workmen away from us and destroying their prosperity of the state, said another. The government says it wants to open up the Yaqui country for settlers. S.R. DeLong, secretary of the Arizona Historical Society and an old resident of Sonora, told me, but it is my opinion that the Yaquis themselves are the best settlers that can possibly be found. Such expressions are heard very frequently in Sonora. In the border states and in the border publications, the Yaqui certainly has an admirable physical development. During my journeys in Mexico, I learned to pick him out at a glance by his broad shoulders, his deep chest, his sinewy legs, his rugged face. The typical Yaqui is almost a giant. A race of athletes. Perhaps that is just the reason why he has not bent his head in submission to the will of the masters of Mexico. American mine owners and railroad men of Sonora are repeatedly complaining against the deportation of the Yaquis, and it is because they are such good workmen. Another matter which I have heard much remarked about by border Americans is the regard of the so-called renegade or fighting Yaquis for the property of Americans and other foreigners. When the Yaquis first took up arms against the present government some 25 years ago, they did so because of a definite grievance. Usually they fought on the defensive, driven to the mountains. They have been compelled at times to sally forth and plunder for their stomach's sake. But for many years, it was known to all men that they seldom attacked Americans or any people but Mexicans. I said they seldom attacked Americans or any people but Mexicans, and for a long time they never committed any depredations on railroads or railroad property, which in Sonora has always been American. The origin of the Yaqui troubles is generally attributed to a plot on the part of a number of politicians, the purpose being to get possession of the rich lands in southern Sonora, which the Yaquis had held for hundreds of years.
You gonna smell my cologne in Yaqui on some bar number 9, because I do not play.
That's the same clone I wear.
Tabernacle sanctuary, because we keep God first in everything we do.
Hey, pimp.
Who named you coming in? By who power? Is what? It's the Spirit of God. See, the Spirit of God is omnipotent. And it works on you. It'll work on your ass and I can be far, far away. Because it is perfect. Y'all, we got the incredible Hawk in the building. What's
Stop the music. Stop the music. Okay? Because all I can control right now is the music, folks. So I'm just going to continue to read. All right? The origin of the Yaqui trouble is generally attributed to a plot on the part of a number of politicians, the purpose being to get possession of the rich lands in southern Sonora, which the Yaquis had held for hundreds of years. Quote, end quote. For 24 years past, the only governors Sonora have been Ramon Corral, now Diaz's vice president, Rafael Zabal, and Luis Torres. These three have rotated in office, as it were, for more than a generation, as no popular elections were held at all. These three friends, all right, brothers, I'm sure, had absolutely no one to answer to except President Diaz, and their authority in Sonora has been practically absolute. The Yaquis seem to have had a pretty good title to their lands when Corral, Yelzebul, and sounds like Beelzebub in this one, and Torres came upon the scene. At the time of the Spanish conquest, they were a nation of from 1 to 200,000 people, folks, supposed by some authorities to have been offshoots from the Aztecs. The Spanish were never able to subdue them completely, and after 250 troublous years, a peace was entered into whereby the Yaquis gave up part of their territory, and as acknowledgement of their rightful ownership of the rest of it, the King of Spain gave them a patent signed by his own hand. This was nearly 150 years ago, but the royal patent was honored by every ruler and chief executive of Mexico down to Diaz. During all that time, the Yaquis were at peace with the world. Their reputation as a naturally peaceful nation was established. It remained for the government of Diaz to stir them into war. All right? Here comes the slave masons. During these years of peace, the Yaquis became part and parcel of the Mexican nation. They lived like other Mexicans. They had their own personal farms, their own homes, and they paid taxes on their property like other Mexicans. During the war against Maximilian, they sent soldiers to help Mexico, and many of them distinguished themselves by brilliant service. But the Yaquis were goaded into war. The men at the head of the government of Sonora wanted the Yaqui land. Moreover, they saw an opportunity for graft and bringing a large body of soldiers into the state, so they harassed the Yaquis. They sent bogus surveyors through the Yaqui Valley to mark out the land and tell the people that the government had decided to give it to the foreigners. They confiscated $80,000 in a bank belonging to Chief Kahimi. Finally, they sent armed men to arrest Kahimi, and when the latter could not find him, they set fire to his house and to those of his neighbors, and assaulted the women of the village, even Kahimi's wife not being respected. Finally, the victims were goaded into war. Since that day, 25 years ago, all right, the Mexican government has maintained an army almost perpetually in the field against the Yaquis, an army ranging in a number from 2,000 to 6,000 men. Thousands of soldiers and tens of thousands of Yaquis have been killed in battle, and many hundreds of the latter have been executed after being taken prisoner. After a few years, Chief Kahimi was captured and publicly executed in the presence of a large body of his people who had been taken prisoner with him. Tetabiati, another Yaqui, was promptly elected to Kahimi's place, and the fight went on. Finally, in 1894, at one fell swoop, as it were, the ground was literally taken from under the feet of the rebels. By act of the federal government, the best of their lands were taken from them and handed over to one man, General Lorenzo Torres, who is at this writing chief of the army in Sonora, then second in command. The government is credited with having been guilty of the most horrible atrocities. Two examples are cited by Santa de Cabora, a Mexican writer, as follows. On May 17, 1892, General Otero of the Mexican Army ordered the imprisonment of the Yaquis, men, women, and children in the town of Navajoa, and hung so many of these people that the supply of rope in the town was exhausted, it being necessary to use each rope 5 or 6 times. A colonel in the army, Antonio Rincon, in July of 1892 took 100 Yaqui men, women, and children prisoners and carried them in the gunboat El Democrata and dropped them in the ocean between the mouth of the Yaqui River and the seaport of Guaymas, all of them perishing. A report was circulated along our Mexican border that an incident similar to the last mentioned happened in February 1908. Colonel Francisco B. Cruz, who was in charge of the exiles and who claims to have been on board of the gunboat and witnessed the incident, declared to me, however, that this report was not true. The Yaquis were drowned, he declared, but not by the authorities, and since at that time the government was not killing any Yaquis whom it could catch and sell, I accept the version of Colonel Cruz as the correct one. Suicide, nothing but suicide. As evaded the colonel, those Indians wanted to cheat me out of my commission money, so they threw their children into the sea and jumped in after them. I was on board myself and saw it all. I heard a loud cry and looking saw some of the crew running to the starboard side of the vessel. I saw the Yaquis in the water. Then there was a cry from the port side and I saw the Yaqui jumping overboard on that side. We lowered boats, but it was no use. They all went down before we got to them. Every soldier who kills a Yaqui, an army physician who served 2 years with the troops against the Yaquis and whom I met in Mexico City told me is paid a reward of $100. To prove his feat, the soldier must show the ears of his victim. Bring in the ears is the standing order of the officers. Often I have seen a company of soldiers drawn up in a square and one of their number receiving $100 for a pair of ears. Sometimes small squads of the Indians are captured, and when I was with the army, it was customary to offer the men freedom and money to lead the troops over the secret mountain trails to the fastness of their friends. The alternative was the rope, yet I never knew of one of the captives turning traitor. Give me the rope, they would cry. And I have seen such a man run, put the rope round his own neck, and demand that it be tightened quickly that he might not again be subjected to so base an insult. I have before me a letter signed by G.G. Lelevere, a former member of the Mexican Liberal Party and editor of one of their papers in the United States. Lelevere is said to have afterwards gone over to the cause of the government, commenting on a photograph showing a lot of Yaquis hanging from a tree in Sonora. The letter says, and I quote, "This picture resembles very much another one that was taken in the Yaqui River when General Angel Martinez was in command of the Mexican Army of Occupation. It was the custom of this general to hang men because they could not tell him where the insurrecto Yaquis were at the time, and he went so far as to lasso the women of the Yaquis and to hang them also. It went on so until the chief of the Geographical Commission reported the facts to the city of Mexico and threatened to resign if the practice continued. Then this monster of a general was removed. But later on, Governor Rafael Sabel, it must have been 1902, made a raid on Tiburon Island where some peaceful Yaquis had taken refuge, and then and there ordered the Seri Indians to bring to him the right hand of every Yaqui there, with the alternative of the Seris themselves being exterminated. Dr. Boido took a snapshot with a Kodak, and you could see it in the governor, laughing at the sight of a bunch of hands that had been brought to him and that were dangling from the end of a cane. This picture was even published in derision of the exploits of Governor Yazabal in the newspaper El Impartial of Mexico City. In 1898, the government troops were armed for the first time with the improved Mauser rifle, and in that year they met and wiped out an army of Yaquis at Mazacuba, the killed numbering more than 1,000. This ended warfare on anything like an equal footing. There were no more large battles. The Yaqui warriors were merely hunted. Thousands of the Indians surrendered. Their leaders were executed, and they and their families were granted a new territory to the north, to which they journeyed as to a promised land. But it proved to be a barren desert, entirely waterless and one of the most uninhabitable spots in all America. Hence, the peaceful Yaquis moved to other sections of the state, some of them becoming wage workers in the mines, others finding employment on the railroads, and still others becoming peons on the farm. Then and there, this portion of the Yaqui nation lost its identity and became merged with the people about it. But it is these Yaquis, the peaceful ones, who are sought out and deported to Yucatan. A few Yaquis, perhaps 4,000 or 5,000, refused to give up the battle for their lands, the found inaccessible peaks, and established a stronghold high up in the Bassetet Mountains, which border upon their former home. Here flow never-ceasing springs of cold water. Here on the almost perpendicular cliffs they built their little homes, planted their corn, raised their families, and sang sometimes of the fertile valleys which once were theirs. The army of several thousand soldiers still hunted them. The soldiers could not reach these mountain heights, but they could wait for the Indians in the gorges and shoot them as they came down in search of meat, of clothes, and of other comforts which they yearned to add to their existence. Many small bands of these so-called renegades have been killed. Others have been captured and executed. Rumors of peace have traveled the rounds only to prove untrue a little later. Peace conferences with the government have been held but have failed because the quote-unquote renegades could secure no guarantee that they would not be either executed or deported after they laid down their arms. In January 1909, the report was officially sent out by Governor Torres that Chief Boulay and several hundreds of his warriors had surrendered on conditions, but later trouble showed this announcement to have been premature. There are at least a few hundred Yaquis among their Bassetate Craigs. They refused to surrender. They are outlaws. They are cut off from the world. They have no connection with the peaceful element of their nature that is scattered all over the state of Sonora. I said the state of Sonora. I said the state of Sonora. Yet the existence of this handful of quote-unquote renegades is the only excuse the Mexican government has for gathering up peaceful Mexican families and deporting them at the rate of 500 per month. Why should a lot of women and children and old men be made to suffer because of some of their fourth cousins are fighting away off there in the hills? The army physician with whom I talked to in Mexico City answered the question in very energetic terms. The reason, he said, there is no reason. It is only an excuse. The excuse is that the workers contribute to the support of the fighters. If it is true, it is true only in infinitesimal minority of cases, for the vast majority of the Yaquis are entirely out of touch with the fighters. There may be a few guilty parties, for absolutely no attempt is made to find them out. For what a handful of patriotic Yaquis may possibly be doing, tens of thousands are made to suffer and die. I said tens of thousands are made to suffer and die. It is as if a whole town were put to the torch because one of its inhabitants had stolen a horse. The deportation of Yaquis to the Yucatan and other slave sections of Mexico began to assume noticeable proportions about 1905. It was carried out on a small scale at first, then on a larger one. Put some gems in the chat if you can still hear me loudly and clearly, folks. Finally, in the spring of 1908, a dispatch was published in American and Mexican newspapers saying that President Diaz had issued a sweeping order decreeing that every Yaqui, wherever found, men, women, and children, should be gathered up by the War Department and deported to the Yucatan. During my journeys in Mexico, I inquired many times as to the authenticity of this dispatch, and the story was confirmed. It was confirmed by men in the public departments of Mexico City. It was confirmed by Colonel Cruz, chief deporter of Yaquis, and it is certain that such an order, wherever it may have come from, was carried out. Yaqui working men were taken daily from mines, railroads, and farms. Old working men who never owned a rifle in their lives, women, children, babes, the old and the young, the weak and the strong, guarded by soldiers and rurals. They traveled together over the Exile Road. And there are others beside Yaquis who traveled over the road, Pimas and Upatas, other Indians, Mexicans, and any dark people found who were poor and unable to protect themselves were taken, tagged as Yaquis, and sent away to the land of Hawkin. What becomes of them there? That is what I went to Yucatan to find out. The secret that lies at the root of the whole Yaqui affair was revealed to me, and the whole matter summed up in a few words by Colonel Francisco B. Cruz of the Mexican Army in one of the most remarkable interviews which I obtained during my entire trip to Mexico. For the past 4 years, this officer has been immediate charge of transporting all Yaqui exiles to Yucatan. I was fortunate enough to take passage on the same steamer with him, returning from Progreso to Veracruz. He is a stout, comfortable, talkative old campaigner of about 60 years. The steamship people put us in the same stateroom, and as the colonel had some government passes, which he hoped to sell me, we were soon on the most confidential terms. In the past 3.5 years, he told me, I have delivered just 15,700 Yaquis in the Yucatan. Delivered, mind you, for you must remember that the government never allows me enough expense money to feed them properly, and from 10 to 20% die on the journey. These Yaquis, he said, sell in the Yucatan for $65 apiece. Men, women, and children. Who gets the money? Well, 10 goes to me for my services. The rest is turned over to the Secretary of War. This, however, is only a drop in the bucket, for I know this to be a fact that every foot of land, every building, every cow, every burrow, everything left behind by the Yaquis when they are carried away by the soldiers is appropriated for the private use of authorities of the state of Sonora.